was like, Kyle, you would be a terrible doctor.
The setup looked beautiful. I was like, are those Balenciaga yoga mats?
You know, because there are a lot of people that are like, wow, that's just, you know,
that's just sound.
And in the end, you're just learning more about yourself, which is a really beautiful experience.
Welcome to yet another episode of the I'm Uncomfortable podcast, the podcast for people who want to be okay with being uncomfortable. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Melissa.
And we're going to talk a little bit about an experience that we had recently. I thought that Melissa put in the work. I just think so highly of you.
When prepping for the new season, we are putting in episode ideas.
Sometimes I just say shit.
And Vanessa really does say shit sometimes. Just now, before we started recording, Vanessa was like, didn't you find this person?
Yeah, because I was like, Melissa, you can introduce it. Like, you found him.
And I was like, no, I didn't. Yeah, so we give the credit to Ashley.
Kyle Lam.
Okay.
Is an alternative and holistic health service provider.
Oh, okay.
Very professional. I'm reading off his Instagram if you're interested in finding him on Instagram. His handle is Kyle Lam Sound Healing. Mm-hmm. And it was so lovely meeting him today. Yeah, Melissa, Liz, and I went to go experience the sound bath. Me for the first time. You two had, because you've done it and you've done it too.
Yeah, I've done a very, small or short sound bath before.
Yeah.
During the ends, the tail ends of some of my yoga classes that I've taken.
So we're really excited to have him on the show and have him talk, to us about how he got to where he is. He is trusted by Balenciaga, which is why I keep saying it, at Toyota USA and Marriott hotels.
Yeah.
And Melissa was saying, because I was just fawning over his Balenciaga post, where they literally have Balenciaga yoga mats. And so imagine that environment, so cool. And Melissa was sharing that they did one.
Yeah, I was seeing. I don't know if it was on his story. I think it was, because we follow him, of course. But I saw recently that he did. He hosted a sound bath at, I think, a luxury mattress showroom.
Yeah.
And so all the people that participated in it were just in the beds, tucked in, So kind of cool.
And we're going to share a little bit more about our experiences as well, because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, so you had options of buying a ticket for the floor mat, the spots on the floor.
Normal yoga.
Yeah, floor mat. And then they had the silks, the aerial yoga silks.
Oh, they're called the silks.
Yeah, the silks.
Wow, so luxurious.
Which is what I thought you booked, so I was like, oh, gotta pick that before they run out of them.
That's so funny, because I thought that you booked the floor.
I mean,
you know what?
Either way, it's fine.
It all worked out. We got to upgrade. We got to upgrade. And so we did the silks. And first of all, I've never done a sound bath. Second of all, I've never sat in
an aerial silk.
It's like you're in a cocoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vanessa's like, okay, I'm going to record. Oh, you could probably put in the clips.
Yes.
Or we'll share it on Instagram.
I recorded Melissa getting into it. I just threw the blanket at her.
Yeah, so both V and Vanessa have never been in these silks. And so we were like, how do you get in?
Well, the lovely owner of the studio did give a demo.
Yeah.
We watched her
grab the silk six times.
And then you push it down. You scoop. And then make sure you're in the middle of the beam.
Yes. So you can reduce the amount of swinging.
Yes.
And then you slide.
Yes. It sounds easy.
And she made it look easy.
She did it so gracefully.
And then I could barely even grab with how...
You were wait.
So it was very much not graceful.
No. And then when we initially got into the swing, I was just rocking back and forth because Melissa got in by herself and then we threw her stuff at her.
Yeah.
I literally had my neck pillow like this.
Oh, yeah, we got neck pillows.
I had the blanket between my legs, and so I'm trying to hop into the silk and I get in, I'm just swinging. And that lovely girl
who had a floor mat
next to me was like, do you want to be stabilized? Do you want to stop? And I was like,
I saw this happen. Because she was swinging. We were swinging. And then
fucking Tarzan!
To be honest, Vanessa, I didn't even see that there was a girl there, because the silk was because part of the instructions is to pull it over your head. So I was peeking out of it like this, and I just was seeing Vanessa, but my peripheral vision did not see this lady. And then all I see is hands that come up and stop you from swinging, and I was like, oh my god.
She asked though.
Yeah, I did kind of hear, but
if I wanted to be stopped, I guess maybe I could have been like, nah, girl, let me swing. Let me swing up in this bitch. Okay, but once things were stabilized, it was fine, and then he starts, and I've obviously never experienced this before, and then all of a sudden it's so loud.
Yeah, okay. Can I just give what I was like? I thought, because you went in with no expectations.
None.
I went in with like the minor experience that I've had,
Yeah.
and these have all been like smaller bowl. Because in a sound bath they have like these
Bowls? Big bowls? You'll see. We'll put pictures.
Yeah, smaller bowls that have like a lighter, higher frequency, and it's basically like all that I've experienced.
Got it.
But he had like all kinds of different instruments.
He had gongs. Massive
Yeah.
gongs.
Yeah.
And
And
I
so-
think that's what did it for me. At one point I was like, are the sound waves vibrating me? Or am I just like breathing and slightly moving?
Because I was very shocked at how intense it all. I mean, and he even mentioned that like
Yeah, he did.
in the beginning when he was like
He warned
introducing
me.
it. Yeah, he was like, there's going to be moments where it's intense, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just sound.
Yeah, but it
Wrong.
really was.
Yeah.
I don't
It was
even know how to
intense.
explain how it hit my eardrums, but
It was like being
vibrating.
immersed in all of it. Like imagine the sound of a gong, but it's like all around your head
Yeah,
and
like
loud.
and loud.
Yeah.
And like hitting my eardrum in a way that you felt like you heard all of the
Vibrations?
you
Yes.
felt and heard all of the vibrations
Yeah.
of it. I was telling him a little bit because we talked to him after the session. There were some points in this experience where I felt like I was Alice in Wonderland, like
did say
in the like dark forest,
Like, trying to find your way
navigating
out.
because it felt. I was telling Liz this too, that at times it kind of felt like spooky.
Yeah, in the beginning I was like, I'm so tense right now. This is the beginning of a horror show, like, or not a horror show. This is
like
like
a tense like part of a movie or something where like something's gonna happen.
like what journey are we going on, and what demons am I uncovering in this sound bath?
I mean, transformative, like
he did say that, so I was like, who am I facing? Who am I battling in this
I didn't
sound
know-
bath right now?
I didn't know these frequencies were gonna unearth the demons that I didn't know I had.
That's what I was worried about, and I was like, what suppressed emotions are going to come up for me? And he was like, well, he said, if any
Oh, yeah,
feelings
he
come
was.
up, like, you might be moved. I was like, am I going to cry? I
Yeah.
mean, fine, but like, we all know I've gotten more comfortable with crying
Yeah.
over the course of this show, but like, I was just very nervous. And then there was a point where the mood changed, and I literally smiled because it just sounded happier.
Okay, I think I know exactly what moment it was because it like changed from like the intense like gongs
Yes.
and like the very like low. I don't know why I said it like that.
Yeah, so people know.
Yeah, and then it transitioned to like beach waves
Yes.
and like pebbles hitting
Yes.
this like the water and yeah, and then the xylophones came out
There we
towards
go.
the end.
And I was like,
I like
okay,
this.
but let's talk about the towards the end, because at some point I lost track of time, and it's not clear whether or not I fell asleep.
I
'Cause
mean-
I don't think I fell asleep, but then at some point I was like, how long have I been in this cocoon?
Well, because he was like, try to become like bring yourself into a meditative state.
Yes.
And then so I know exactly what you're talking about, where it's like, I think I'm in a meditative state, but I'm aware that I'm in a meditative
So
state.
am I no
but am I
longer in
no
a
longer
meditative
in the
state?
meditative state? Am I sleeping?
Were you guys wearing the eye covers?
I was. The eye pillows.
was nice. The
I
eye
feel like I
pillows.
need one of those.
Yeah, it was so nice. And it was scented.
Mine wasn't scented.
Oh.
They were lavender.
They were, yeah. It's impressive that I could smell it. I'm always congested, so yours
I
really
did not
must not have
have-
been scented. Okay,
Forgot
well,
about me. It's
that's
okay.
okay. Well, I will say, for not knowing what to expect, I did find my like meditative state, which is interesting because
Yeah.
I really have a hard time sitting still. I have a hard time clearing my brain. I'm always like thinking about something, so it's interesting to be able to reach that place.
Yeah.
because that's never happened before. So thanks, Kyle.
And today we are joined by Kyle Lam of Kyle Lam Sound Healing. Kyle is based in Southern California and produces holistic healing events that introduce the benefits of meditation, sound baths, and mindfulness to the community. His mission is actually to create wellness experiences accessible to all members of the community in order to promote healing to the mind, body, heart, and spirit. So Vanessa and I actually had an opportunity a few weeks ago to join one of Kyle's sound baths in Huntington Beach. Vanessa was in town to do some recording in LA, and we figured we'd do an in-person experience together, go through that uncomfortable moment together so that we could talk about it. And luckily we're able to invite Kyle himself himself to have a conversation with us about what he does. So with that, I would like to invite Kyle to introduce himself, add anything else he wants to add to his bio, and as is the tradition of this show, share what has made him uncomfortable lately. So Kyle,
take it away.
Super honored, guys. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. I always say us. Something one of my mentors told me very early on was to never talk myself in like a singular person, always like a we. So I always say like, oh, thank you for having us on, or we're so honored, but it's really just me.
Wait, did they say why? Like, what's the reason for not referring?
I think it makes you sound like more like a team, so to speak. It has nothing to do with like the whole lay them thing, but it's more like we as a team, like our brand, so to speak, even though like it's just me and some assistants, right? But yeah, thank you for that introduction. Like they were saying, I do host a lot of sound bath, meditation, mindfulness, and wellness events here in Southern California. I've been doing it professionally for about 5 years now. I've been doing it casually for 7. And a lot of our events are really geared for anyone in the community with any background in meditation or spirituality. We have a lot of events that are not only suitable for those who are beginners to meditation or sound baths, but also advanced practitioners looking for, really stronger spiritual connection too as well. But beyond that, I come from a musical background, so I'm able to incorporate a lot of musical theory into our sound bath events, and to help people understand how healing and beneficial music can be at a very fundamental level, beyond just the songs and lyrics that we listen to in the genres that we like to as well. And what makes me uncomfortable? So lately, the biggest one has been having me as some kind of public figure because of my social media presence, and just me doing what I do. I'm realizing now that people are seeing me, coming up to me and talking to me like I'm this like really big figure, and I even have an influencer manager now, which when I hired her, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Because I low-key used to, like jab and make fun of influencers, right? Because it's just something that's very easy to make fun of. But now, as I'm in it, one is I believe that it's kind of like karma, right? It's like the stuff that you jab at, like, okay, well, let's see how you feel if you're this
as an influencer.
Right? Like, what's your perspective going to be like on yourself now? But my interactions with people now have been very different because of that regard. And I think the hardest thing right now is not only ensuring that, people's perspective of me people's perspective to me is, it kind of matches like what they think about when they see my Instagram profile and they see the work that I do, but also remaining true to my own authentic self, because I don't want to be this persona, like, who I am on Instagram. I mean, it's my line of work. It's a big part of who I am, but it's not all of me too as well, right? And so the navigating of that has been a little bit tricky, but also when people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I've been following you for so long. Oh my God, I'm such a huge fan. For the longest time, I was kind of like, nice. Like, that's cool. But now I've learned to, respond and engage with it very differently. But I think still for a lot of my friends who know me personally, they always make fun of me too. They're like, Kyle, like, we know who you truly are. Like, we've gone out with you. Like, we've partied with you, right? So it's like having that blend of like who I truly am, like on a personal level, who I am on a professional level, but also like who I am, as a social media figure, and also as a public figure here in Orange County too as well. So that's been the thing that's been the most uncomfortable, but I believe anything that's, I'm sure you guys resonate with this too, like anything that's uncomfortable, it really is just opportunity for you to grow and evolve too as well. So it's a beautiful discomfort, but it's also a hilarious one, because I never thought I would be this way.
I mean, me and Vanessa came up to you at the end of our class and was like,
Hey,
kind of shy, you know. So we're definitely part of that. But Vanessa's usually the one out of the two of us to be like, Melissa, let's break out of our comfort zone and do the uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
So I definitely know how that feels.
Yeah, and I love that too. The truth is, the vast majority of people, I think, are intimidated to come talk to me afterwards. Not only because of the fact that I'm this figure, I'm this teacher, like I'm on stage and sharing, what the class is, but I'm also the one facilitating them to go into a vulnerable space in the sound bath experience too as well. So all that combined, and I think also the truth is, I'm a male, right? And so there's also like some intimidation on that too as well, especially in my line of work and in this industry, which is primarily female dominated. So when people do come up to me and, like you guys, and share your experience, talk to me, I love that because I'm all about community and sharing too as well. I know if I go up to someone, they're gonna be like, oh my God. And I see like this, like not this dumb shock, but like a shock. They're like, I don't know what to say or what to.
I love hearing that because, Vanessa and I, or, we tend to feel it's almost a segment of like that imposter syndrome. But then once you're in that conversation and you have that interaction with that person, it just is authentic and you just have an authentic, genuine conversation. It's just breaking out of that wall that you have for yourself of actually doing it and having that and being open to that genuine connection. But you've worked with some really amazing brands.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky. Not only we worked with a lot of local organizations, different companies, different stores, different institutions here too as well, both public and private. But we've also worked with some major brands. So the biggest one is Balenciaga, right? They booked me for their fall 24 fashion premiere. They had their whole design team from Paris, and I did it for them at the WeHo Edition Hotel. It was very posh. I loved it.
Yeah, the setup looked beautiful. I was like, are those Balenciaga yoga mats?
Yeah. It's funny because that particular, like, from a video perspective, it's so beautiful, right? But each disco balls made so much noise. So, like, from a sound perspective, it wasn't, like, optimal. It wasn't bad. It's just, like, it's not, like, a quiet, secluded, quiet, like, sound and closed room. But beyond Balenciaga, I mean, I've done events for Oakley. We've done events for Marriott. We've done events for Toyota, right? I've worked with Kelsey Fullerton. We worked with a lot of hotels here too as well. And we've also kind of worked with some like other brands to like promote their products and stuff like that too as well.
Do you feel like people are asking you to come in? Is it like a team builder or is it like everyone stress the hell out, like let's relax? Like what is it a variety of reasons?
Most of the time when we get booked by any companies, it's usually for like a wellness weekend or an employee appreciation weekend too as well. They'll rent out like a conference hotel, right? They'll have us come as part of their activities that they have for the day too. A lot of them just, for example, Toyota had me come for, I think it was like Mental Health Awareness Month, right? Oakley did something very similar too as well. And, Balenciaga, it was just, their PR director was like, we want to give them the LA experience. And I was like, Sam, that's the total LA experience. Because they're mostly based in New York. Right. So, but most of the time it's to promote like well-being for their employees and their team too as well. Like we had a law firm that reached out to us, and I did a soundbite for 30 lawyers, right? And it's because they call like a reset weekend because they know how much their legal team works, how fast their minds are, so they want to give them like a little break too as well. So it's been cool because I get to work with a lot of industries that are not necessarily directly related to holistic wellness, right? Like law, high fashion, right? Public education. But at the same time, it's also been really beautiful to see how these companies, brands, and industries, the steps they're doing to take care of their employees, right? And so it's been I've seen the shift, like, and even like I teach this to students from all around the world, and I've been getting more students from rural America. I've had students from Idaho, North Carolina, Missouri, Nebraska, right? And even across the country too as well. I mean, I've had some students from Canada, from Mexico. Granted, that's really easy to get to, but we had our first student from India last week. She flew all the way from South Delhi to come to as well. I had a private consultation with this group in Australia. So I'm seeing more and more of the world just kind of not only recognizing this, but also the general public across the world trying it out.
I want to hear from you what you do for your participants that are kind of not really sure what the benefits are of things like sound baths and meditation, because there are a lot of people that are like, wow, that's just, that's
just sound.
It's just a little gong that is, can you explain to the doubters how you think this helps and how
Tell the haters what the...
Yeah.
It's funny because sometimes I'll have very skeptical people that come to our events and they're like, well, I'm just here to try it out. And then afterwards you look on their face and they're like, what the heck just happened? And they're like, they don't know how to form words because they're still processing like the very deep experience, right? So when you go to a sound bath, right, the name itself is, first of all, the name itself is a little bit strange, right? There's the word bath in it. Some people are like, are we going to take a bath, right? But we call sound bath, it's because it's an immersive experience, right? You're bathing in all these sounds, but you're not just bathing in sounds, you're also bathing in vibrations too. And that's what's the difference between going to a sound bath and just listen to meditation on Spotify, right? Because a lot of people are like, I can just listen to meditation music on YouTube or Spotify. What's the difference? The difference is that physical vibration element, right?
Yeah, that was real.
I did not expect that part.
That was so intense.
Vibration is actually what puts your body into a very restful state, right? The sound kind of soothes the brain, but the vibration soothes the body too. So it's a very all-around sensory experience, right? You listen and you feel, right? At our events in particular, as you know, we offer some other amenities to kind of enhance the other senses, right? The aromatherapy, the coconut water, right? So in that way, you have like an all-around overall experience. That's also kind of what makes our sound baths different than for a lot of other people too. Also because the vast amount of instruments that I use, right? For on average sound baths, we bring about 3 gongs, 14 bowls, and about 5 other instruments too as well. It's the same thing as when you compare going to a live concert versus going like listening on your AirPods, right? When you go to a live concert, right, you're hearing everything made right in front of you, right?
And you feel the bass from the instrument,
bass, right, from the speaker system too. But you also feel this energy from that person creating it, because every instrument that anyone uses, it doesn't matter what kind of musician you are, right? That instrument is not just a tool, it becomes an extension of your own self. So the musician is putting their energy into that instrument. The instrument is amplifying that energy through sound waves, right? And you're receiving that too as well. So there's also this beautiful connection that you have with the person conducting it, right? And that's why for a lot of people, when you go to a sound bath, you're not just going to a sound bath, you're going to someone who you want to basically be in their energy in some sense, right? This is kind of where we go into more like, this is more the other realm of like what a sound bath makes of, right? But in that sense too, there's a lot of other components involved besides just listening to something, right? You're feeling, you're connecting. Also, for most people who go to a group sound bath, right, like you're amongst different energies, right? And when you guys went to our Honey Beach one, you saw it's very community oriented, right? Everyone's talking and engaging, like
helping each other get comfortable.
So it's a very communal thing too as well, and that's kind of what we want to create. Is like, okay, there's an open environment where anyone from any background can come to as well, right? But I always reference that live concert. That live concert comparison, because if you go to a live concert, what a huge difference it is than listening on Spotify.
It's so different,
right? And also like just that high of like being in that kind of environment, that rush, like the singing it, that the expression of like what you want to like, your expression of your emotions and whatever song that you're listening to or singing along with too. It's very powerful. And in sound baths, we do the same thing, but we're not singing, right? But we're letting our emotions out, right? We're letting our energy out too as well. And the types of energy and emotions that we're letting out tend to come from more of our vulnerable states. the ones that we don't necessarily share or talk about in public, right? And so here's a safe environment for us to really express our emotions, the ones that we may not be so comfortable sharing openly with the people that we know or in general, right? But we're in our, even though we're amongst a group, right? Everyone's eyes are closed, right? I'm in my own little cocoon and bubble, right? And so that gives me the sensation of feeling safe, to be able to let whatever I have out energetically and emotionally. And that's what makes a sound bath very beautiful. But at the same time, everyone has different intentions on why they do sound baths, right? Some people produce sound baths simply to create a relaxation experience, which you guys have had in your Shavasana after yoga class, right? It's a simple 5-10 minute thing to kind of integrate what you guys did in your yoga flow, right? There's people like me who create sound baths that help you to promote self-awareness or to have a safe space for emotional healing, right? And there are some people who do sound baths as part of like a much more deeper spiritual practice too, right? Like I've been to sound baths where like, oh, we're going to connect to like the Sirius realm, right? Or like, we're going to connect to the Venusian galaxy. Like there's pretty out there things, like definitely for sure, right? And so just the spectrum of what is possible in sound, it's quite vast.
I suppose you kind of get back what you put into it. So you go in with an intention similar to what what I've experienced in yoga classes, where the instructor is offering an intention, but if that one doesn't suit you and you have one with you that you would like to carry through the practice, then that's for you. So you make it your own. So you get out what you put into the experience, so people can be as deep as they want or not. If you're just going there to have a relaxing experience, then that's what you're doing that day. And another experience, you can get really more into that emotional and spiritual healing part of it too, if that's what you desire.
Yeah, and that's how meditation is, right? Like when you first meditate, you're not going to meditate for 45 minutes. You're going to meditate for maybe 5 or 10, right? But through consistent practice, not only can you extend your meditation, but you go deeper, which is why a lot of people like coming to our sound baths continuously, because they have a deeper and deeper experience every single time, and they're unraveling different layers within their emotional bodies more and more too as well. So some people just have like a one-off thing, or some people come more consistently too as well, because it's part of their mindfulness practice, or it's part of their wellness routine, right?
Yeah.
So that's the beautiful thing about it. It's not just something that once you have an experience, you're like, okay, that's it. Like it's something that you could continue to explore more, and in the end you're just learning more about yourself, which is a really beautiful experience.
You said you were doing sound baths and meditations casually for 7 years, and then you have been doing them professionally for 5. So can you talk a little bit about what initially inspired you to start all of this, and what made you transition from casually doing it to professionally doing it?
Yeah, that's the whole story. So I used to work in finance. I used to be an accountant actually, and I quit my job as an accountant in 2017 because I wanted to go to medical school, because I realized what I was doing professionally in finance really wasn't fulfilling me to like contribute to society. It wasn't something that was really fulfilling to my soul. Plus, I was working 60 hours a week in front of an Excel spreadsheet and software, and I'm a very social, engaging person, and it was just very detrimental to my soul. And I decided to go to medical school route because my mindset was I could have a direct influence on patients, not only for their care, but their understanding of like their health too as well. Most people don't really have a lot of quality education about their health, right, or what's available for them. The only person that they go to is their primary care physician, right? I grew up in a very like lower middle class area, so most people just don't have the resources or knowledge about it too, and so I knew that for a fact. And of course, at the time I was very honest. I wanted the prestige behind being a doctor. My mom used to be a physician herself, so she also kind of gave me that push too. So 2017 is when I quit my job in accounting, went back to school to try to get all my science courses, and that's when I started doing sound baths just for fun. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of Kundalini yoga. That's the bread and butter of my spiritual practice. And for anyone familiar with Kundalini yoga, they always end the class with a gong. So I fell in love with the gong really early on, and it just so happened that I became friends with two notable sound healers in the LA area at the time, and I became part of their volunteer team to produce. From that, I not only got like a lot of unofficial training, but I also got to kind of see how they run things and everything too as well. And little thing about me, I have a music in my background, right? So I played piano.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was like, you mentioned musical background. I want to know more about
I
that.
played piano for 10 years, like a very good Asian kid, like my mom put me in.
Of course.
I did clarinet for 6 years. I was in symphony orchestra, concert band, and marching band.
Okay.
I've also been going to live concerts. My very first concert was 14, and I've been going to live music concerts like consistently ever since then. So my love of music, not only from my musical background, but my attendance in these live shows also kind of influenced this whole sound bath thing. But I just did it for fun. I had this studio like down the street from where I was living at the time, and I was doing that like once a month. And in about 3 years, I was hitting about 4 to 5 different cities. But with that too, I also realized that I wasn't the most academically qualified for medical school. It was emotionally hard because I was putting a lot of energy into sound baths, but putting a lot of energy into trying to get to medical school. But ultimately, I came to the realization I'm not meant to go to medical school. And then COVID surprisingly grew my business like crazy. And I was having events where people were not only driving from like Manhattan Beach or to San Fernando Valley, but people were also driving down from like San Francisco because there was like nothing else going on there too as well.
Yeah.
That's why I say like I was casually doing it for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And then by year 3, I was like, I'm in this. Like, it's either I do this, I try to go to medical school again, or go to medical school in the Caribbeans, or go back to finance. And I was volunteering at this integrative health clinic in Tustin, and the director there, he was also Chinese, and he also completed medical school when in his 20s, but he was an entrepreneur first and foremost, and he always opened medical businesses. And his recommendation for me to go into sound baths was actually the one that really did it. You know, I'm the kind of person that's also very practical. I was okay, like, it would make more sense for me to go a medical or corporate finance route, especially if I want to raise a family. But then he was in his 70s, and he says, you should do this because you have a passion for it. And he says, that's what kind of makes or breaks anyone who owns a business, is that you have to have a passion and a drive for it, and you have that. He's like, Kyle, you would be a terrible doctor. You spend way too much time with your patients. You want to listen to their story and everything. And you know, it's like, it's true. Like, obviously, like, you know, you know, when you go to your PCP, you only get like maybe 10-15 minutes, right?
Yeah, they're trying to get through as many patients as possible.
Because it makes
right?
sense, because it's an insurance thing, right? So like, you can't actually spend that time with them if you want to make it a profitable business.
Yeah.
And so that advice from him ultimately is what pushed me to like do this full time. And obviously when I first started, I had a little bit of, you know, trepidations about it and uncertainties, but after I think the first year, and it really grew, and it, you know, the success was like coming back financially too as well. That's when I was like, okay, like I'm in this, and I love this. So I was able to embrace more of who I am, you know, what I want to do.
So there's people who seek you out, right? And so potentially, I would assume these people have had some type of meditation experience or background, right? But then there's people, I'm assuming, who, when you do these wellness retreats or corporate events, right? There's people like me who are like, I've never had a sound bath or done a sound bath. I don't know how to meditate. I'm very uncomfortable with this whole thing. What are like the misconceptions that people have, or like how do you help them feel more comfortable during their experience?
First of all, my philosophy is all about practicality, because the truth is, sound baths, when they first came out, were very spiritual. You know, mostly people in the New Age communities or spiritual communities knew about them because it's very synonymous with kind of the type of experience that you have. It's very ethereal, it's very ascending, right? Like there's theories about how certain notes correlate with our chakras and our energy centers, right?
Okay.
But since my goal is to reach the masses, I try to keep more of a practical sense, and I tell people, you've already experienced sound healing. through the music that you listen to, right? And if you reflect back on your favorite artists, your genres or songs, right? What is the reason why you listen to them so much? One is because they speak to a certain part of your heart, right? They give you a better understanding about who you are. But two is they help you to navigate through the situations that you go through emotionally, both on an internal level, right? And also the type of situations and scenarios that you deal with in the external world too as well. And we all have had times where we've sung a lyric or we've heard a specific chord in a track, and there's that mental and emotional release that we get, right? Like, you know, like we sing in the shower, like, right? Like I make sure I'm like, there are some sad songs you just love to sing. You have no, I'm not even sad. You just love to sing it because it gets your emotions out, right?
No, yeah,
And so sound healing, it's just basically that, but using the fundamentals of music, notes, harmonics, frequency, and vibration. That's why I can market it, but also to tell people, look, you've already done this before in some ways, but now you get to be more intentional about it and actually have a meditation practice with it. You know, for people who have never meditated before, this is a much more easier way because there's a support system, right?
Okay.
And
It's not just the silence of meditation or just, you have something to guide you through it.
Yeah. And like, you know, like for those who've done silent meditations, right? It takes more work from us. Like we have to have more discipline, focusing on our breath. Even if we do like a guided meditation by someone, it's up to that person's voice, their speed and the types of words that they choose, right? Versus in sound, right? There's no language involved, right? Everyone's interpretation and perception of sound is different based off their life experiences, right? Yeah. So in that sense, you can become your own conductor. But because there's this external stimulus going around too, it's that support system that helps you kind of go into that meditative state too. And there's a lot of theories about how certain sounds and certain kind of tone combinations can either slow or speed up your brainwave too as well. And in meditation, we mostly go down into that theta brainwave state right before we fall asleep in delta. For most people who do meditation, most people who go into sound baths, they experience that theta brainwave more often than not.
I love when science is brought into all of these things. And like, I appreciate you coming from a background of music theory as well, and an appreciation for music, because I think that is a really big part of your experience with music. I remember when I spoke to you, I had only had a very short sound bath experience a couple of times at the tail end of some of my yoga classes that I've done, but nothing as immersive as what your sound bath was, and as long. I think it was 90 minutes. Yeah, it was 90 minutes, and it definitely went through all kinds of different instruments. I wasn't expecting all the different kinds of sound waves to hit my eardrums in the way that they did. And I think I remember using the word, it was kind of spooky at one point.
I already said that.
The reason why I said that, and you saying just now, you can interpret these sounds for yourself, and you can be your own conductor, and I could see that as a way, like you said, outside of someone's voice that's guiding you through a meditation, for you to guide yourself kind of through whatever it is you're trying to meditate through or think through or feel. Because I feel like that is a lot of the misconception about, or like lack of information about, what meditation does for you.
Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that you created such a welcoming environment. And I know there were lots of like other amenities that helped with that. But I think if you're listening and you're like me, and I find it hard to like sit still, and I find it hard to find, or not find, there's always, but to make the time to sit and, you know, meditate. It was nice to have like a structured, this is the time I'm going. My phone is gone. My watch is gone. I'm literally in a hammock. I cannot move. Like, I cannot run away. It's always nice to just have that structured time that I know that I'm going to focus, and I've set aside this time on intentionally to do so. Yeah. And I appreciate your comparison to the concert thing. I kind of wish I'd heard that before I tried the sound bath, because that immediately I was like, oh, okay. Like that put me way more at ease. So if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube and you've never done a sound bath before, that was a great comparison. So help ease your mind into it.
So is there anything that you would like to add on top of what you've already said, Kyle, about how someone who is maybe new or trying to explore different avenues of wellness and self-awareness and those kinds of practices in their life, what would you say to them to be a little bit more comfortable or more willing to try something like sound baths?
Someone whose company is like, hey, you're going to attend a sound bath.
Prepare yourself to be uncomfortable.
Well, as much as I love what I do, I'm always very transparent. Like, sound baths may not be for everyone. And that's with anything that anyone does, right? Like, for example, I love bodybuilding. I absolutely hate doing group Zumba classes, right? But some people, Zumba works great for them, right? Some people absolutely abhor going to the gym and lifting weights, right? Yeah. And in the end, it's all about discovering what works best for you, right? And I think to be able to have the willingness and courage to try something at least once, to know that you do not like it, is just as powerful as knowing as something that you do like too as well. Because in the end, you're learning something about yourself and you're developing more courage and confidence in your decisions on what you want to make, right? That's why I think for a lot of people that I know, it's like, okay, you don't like olives, but have you tried olives? Like, no, I just don't like it. Like, how do you know that? How do you know? Like, do you have credible evidence? Like, I don't think so, right? So you also, but at the same time, you also want to be very mindful of who you get your experience from. And I've had a lot of people who come to me, tell me they didn't have a good sound bath experience before. And thankfully our experience turned them around. But, you have your own unique compass within you that can navigate you where in the right direction to go to, right? That's your intuition. And if you really hone into and your intuition really speaks to you in like your emotions too as well, right? So if you feel good about something to try it out, then try it out. If you're not sure about it, you can still try it out. But I think a healthy dose of skepticism is always good. And I tell people that too. I'm not trying to convince you to be an avid sound healer. I'm saying, drop your guard, try it out. If you have some skepticism, that's okay too as well.
My rule is to always try something twice and then decide if I don't like it, because I maybe could try olives once and hate it, but then I need to have another opportunity, data, science to back that up. So
there's different kinds of olives.
Yeah, actually, that's what I made that joke because I used to be like, no, I hate olives, but now I'm like, yeah, actually, it's not too bad.
I like the green ones. I don't really like the black ones, but I had to try both to figure it out. Well, Kyle, if people are looking to give sound baths a try, can you share with our listeners where they can find you, how they can go and attend one of your amazing sound baths?
Yeah, so we're based in Southern California in Orange County. We do a lot of events, about 3 to 4 times a week. We do some in the LA area too. I'm starting to head out to other states, so we're going to be in Miami and Tampa the week before Thanksgiving, so mid-November. So if you're in the South Florida area, come check us out too as well. And we're planning to sometime be in 2025 over in the Northeast in Massachusetts as part of a little tour that we're doing there too as well. But if you come to California, you can find us there. My website, KyleLamSoundHealing.com. My Instagram, @KyleLamSoundHealing, has my whole schedule. You can look up, videos of my work, see how I am too. You can shoot me a DM. I run my own Instagram to kind of keep it very personal. But give it a try. You never know.
Well, thank you again, Kyle, for joining us today. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the I'm Uncomfortable podcast. Be sure you're following Kyle on Kyle Lam Sound Healing on all his platforms. Sign up for one of his sound baths. Vanessa and I had a wonderful experience, a new experience, so definitely check that out. And be sure you're following us on Instagram as well at imuncomfortable.podcast, the same handle on TikTok as well. We post some of our exclusive clips from our episodes there, so you should follow us on both of those platforms. We're also newly on YouTube, so if you want to watch our episodes and see Kyle, his face, you should follow us on YouTube, subscribe, all of those things. And we also have a Facebook group, so if you want to get our episodes a day early, you should be part of that. So again, thank you, Kyle, for being here today, and be sure to stay tuned for next week for another episode. Thanks, guys.